Hey guys, what's going on? Hope you're all well. It's Tuesday, 5:04. Just got out. Been seeing a lot of forests today. Honestly, not really too sure what that means, but it's something that I've noticed, and I'm sure that it means something good, if anything. So there you go. Good day at the office, really. Not much to report on. Kind of just an average day. It's all good. Enough said. When I was driving here this morning, normally, like, by the time I get to the parking garage, there's like a good amount of spots open on a Tuesday by the time I normally get there. And for some reason, the parking garage, at least the area that I, park in, was super crowded. And the row of spots that, are adjacent to where my, go-to spot is, every spot was taken in the row, except for mine. So call that a coincidence if you want, but I think it's really cool. And I kind of took it as a sign that, things are going my way, and good things are coming. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool this morning. Kind of just opened my eyes a little bit and got me in the right kind of mood to start my work day with. So yeah, that was pretty cool. It was kind of like my spot was the only one open in the area, so kind of felt like the universe was making some room for me, and it'll let me know. So again, it's pretty cool. Another thing that happened this morning was, I'll give you a little bit of backstory to it. So over the weekend, me and a few of my buddies went out hiking, and we found this trail online a few days before, and I knew where the trail was located, and it said that the difficulty was moderate. There's low, moderate, and high difficulty rankings, and this was under moderate. So I figured, we're not big hikers, so it would be a good place to start. And that was all we knew. We knew where it was and that it was moderate, and that was it. Sorry, there's a railroad here, and the gates came down. I'm looking at the train right now. I've never seen this before. I'm a little intrigued, but so we went hiking, and we didn't have a map of the place. We knew there was a viewpoint, and that was kind of all we knew going in. So what we did is we got to the viewpoint. It took about an hour, maybe a little over an hour's of a hike to get to the viewpoint. And then we figured, we still got a lot of time before we have to, head home. So let's just keep going. And so we went to this other spot that was, pointed out at the very beginning to check out. There was a viewpoint, and then this other little place, a 5-minute hike away from that there's a mailbox with a notebook, and you can sign your name and, let everyone know you were there, and if you want to leave a message or anything. And I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool, so we checked that out too. And then, that was 5 minutes after we got to the viewpoint, or we left the viewpoint, I should say. And then so we're let's just keep going. So that's what we did. We kept going, and we kept going for a little far too long. And long story short, we turned what should have been, a good, more of a short hike into a good 7 or 9 hour hike. You know, and we're inexperienced guys doing this hike. You know, we made it a lot more difficult for ourselves, and I think by the end of the hike, we had like 30,000 steps. We hiked like 13 miles. It was like between like 7 and 9 like total hours of hiking, and you know, it was like a moderate trail, and pretty much, you know, it wasn't like a smooth like dirt gravel trail. No, it was like a mountain, like jagged, like hard, like rocky trail. And at least myself, I was very ill-equipped, and by that I mean I didn't have a pair of hiking shoes, so I wore my like daily shoes and my pair of Vans. And so needless to say, I was pretty wiped after. I was very wiped after we finished up. Of course, the adrenaline's going to the moment. You know, my body felt all pumped up and jacked up in the moment, but I had a lot of the adrenaline going. And as soon as, you know, we got back to the house after driving home, it all started to already set in. So pretty much Sunday to, you know, today, my legs have been very sore, especially my calves more than anything. And so, you know, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, what I normally like to do is go for a run early in the morning when I wake up. And you know, waking up this morning, get out of bed, and quite honestly, I could hardly walk. And I was like, oh God, like, how am I gonna do this run? Like, if I can hardly walk, how am I gonna run like X amount of miles this morning? So I had a little backup plan, and I had a little escape route that, you know, if after a couple minutes of waking up and walking around the house and everything, if that, you know, my legs didn't start to feel at least slightly better by the end of that, then, you know, I would just pivot and go to the gym and make up my run, say tomorrow or some other day. But you know, I'm walking around my house, you know, get myself ready, and thinking a little more about it. And, you know, as I'm waking up, my legs are starting to wake up with me a little bit, and I'm like, you know what, like, let's just suck it up, bite the bullet, and do it. You know, let's be a little gritty. Like, let's run through this pain and this soreness that we're feeling, and let's just get out of the way. You know, make it an experience, make it a cool story to tell. And the run ended up actually going really great. You know, it takes, you know, thanks to, you know, my whole warm-up routine that I do, my legs were able to kind of wake up and get moving around and blood flowing and whatever else. So by the time I started running, you know, it was all good. And then once the adrenaline kicked in after a few minutes, felt pretty much totally normal. So it ended up actually being a really good run. And I think that not only it's a cool story to tell, because I feel like I'm bragging about it a little bit, you know, which makes me feel good, boost my ego a little bit. But I think it's a good lesson to learn. I'm gonna quote David Goggins, to take a suck it up pill every now and then, or at least more often than you already do. Just, you know, take a suck it up pill and do something sucky, do something that you don't want to do or you don't look forward to. Because, and I know I'm coming back to an old subject, an old topic that I've talked about in previous videos, but while yes, of course, you should love yourself and be kind and pleasant to yourself, and also, yes, of course, you should challenge yourself and push yourself and hold yourself to a high standard. I think just to bridge the two together, I heard one time that the deepest form of self-love is discipline. And I think that this morning was kind of a perfect gleaming example of it for me. So with that, I wanted to share it with you guys, because not only is, again, I kind of like to tell this story because it makes me feel good, but I also do think that there is a genuine, lesson to learn, and something to take away from it is that the deepest form of self-love is discipline. So with that, for me this morning, even though a big part of me wanted to take care of myself and let my legs rest up for another day and do something else in the meantime, falling back on my discipline and having the discipline to go out and, endure a sucky run, if you want to call it a little grit sesh. Just having that discipline to go out and do that is really kind of the deepest form of self-love that you can give yourself. And because of that, it really forces, I don't want to say forces, but you really grow the most naturally because of it, if that kind of makes sense to you guys. So yeah, and also, side note, what's cool about this run as well is that, it's very dark now that it's transitioning more and more into fall. The sun rises later in the morning and it sets earlier in the evening. So you don't really catch a sunrise, at least for me. I don't really catch a sunrise too much anymore, at least while I'm outside or doing whatever I'm doing in the morning. But I was able, for some reason, I don't really know why, I was able to catch a sunrise towards the end of my run today, and it was a very nice sunrise, kind of similar to yesterday. It was a really, really cool sunrise. And again, kind of just makes it all worth it because of it. So yeah, if that's your sign to go out and do some more sucky stuff and love yourself more by killing yourself in a way. That sounds awful, but yeah, love yourself more by making yourself hate yourself, I guess is a better way to put it. Because the first one was kind of jacked up, but yeah, if that's your sign to go out and do that, then I'm glad that I was the one to kind of open your eyes to it a little bit and relay the message to you guys, because again, if it helps me, I'm sure it could help you guys as well. So yeah, that's that. Also, lesson to learn before you go hiking: do your due diligence and try to invest in a pair of hiking shoes if you can. Don't do what I do in that case and hike 13 miles up and down a mountain twice in Vans. I would not recommend it unless you want very sore calves and legs. I wouldn't recommend doing that. But yeah, I'm gonna leave all that there. I feel like we're in a good spot with both those things. Before I get to the main topic that I wanted to talk about today, I was listening to a podcast on my way to work, and there was this tiny little snippet that really stuck out to me from the 20 or so minutes that I listened to this podcast on my way to work. And pretty much what the guy said, what the guest of the podcast said, that really resonated with me is that a lot of people, and by that I mean pretty much all of society today, is kind of trained and accustomed and programmed into thinking that in order to be happy in life, you have to be successful. And what that means is that to be happy or to find happiness, you have to, be successful. But unfortunately, what the reality is that you can achieve as much success as you possibly can, but you'll still kind of feel empty at the end of it. You will still feel like you could be a lot happier than you are, even though you've achieved so much success, however you define that, in your life. And so, myself included, before hearing that was kind of the way that I, as well as I'm sure almost all of society that we live in, feels towards, being happy is you have to be successful in order to be happy. And what the guests of this podcast offered that, again, really resonated with me is that you should really flip. You should really flip it. Instead of being successful to find happiness, you should really be happy to find success. And that made a lot of sense in my eyes. Because really the goal of everyone's life, whether they realize it or not, or they want to admit it or not, is to be happy at the end of it. And again, most, if not all of us, currently think that in order to be happy and maximize your happiness, you have to be successful and maximize your success. When really, it's just simply not true. And what you actually have to do is to flip it. Where to be happy, all you have to do is be happy. That's all there is to it. And then in doing so, you'll find success and more success at that. Sorry, I just messed up a little bit driving wise, but so I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, but I feel like I haven't just made it clear enough, or I haven't explained it well enough, which, who knows, maybe you'll find more of it in the comments. Don't, how am I going to say this? Don't think, oh my gosh, my mind is kind of empty right now. Sorry, I'm having to concentrate a little bit. There's a good amount of build-up going on, so doing some multitasking here. But oh my goodness, I'm really struggling right now. Again, apologies, but to be it's not correct if I were to say that being successful means you find happiness. It's not correct. It's not true. What is true is that to be successful, you have to first be happy. Success does not lead to happiness. Happiness leads to success. So again, you might find more on this in the description in the video if I have some post film thoughts on it that make more sense when I'm in more of a less chaotic environment as I am right now. And I can kind of just sit down and think more on this kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that there because I don't want to confuse you guys or myself anymore about it. But yeah, I hope you guys got the message. So now I'm getting into what I wanted to be the main message today, which I honestly wanted to mention in yesterday's video, but I just didn't get around to it, which isn't that big of a deal because yesterday's video I was very happy with and how it turned out. So no big deal. It just gives me more things to talk about today, which always works out for the better. But this was a thought that I've had for the past couple days, and it really kind of clicked with me, during my whole hike, my whole hobbit, if you will, on Saturday. But it kind of just randomly popped into my head. I guess I was having a little walking thought. But I was thinking back on a previous video where I mentioned, I forget if it was in the actual video of, me yapping, or if it was in the description of one of the videos where I expand more into a thought that I have. But I mentioned something in a video where you have to be able to, where you should listen to your soul more than you listen to your ego. And, when you do that, in order to do it, you have to be able to tell the difference between your soul and your ego. And when you have an inner voice talking to you about something, whether that voice is the voice of your soul or the voice of your ego. I'm getting better and better at learning what that difference is and how to properly listen to it once I've identified it. But I figured it can be a difficult thing to do if it's something new to someone, say like someone like you. And I had a thought that occurred to me during my hike, during my hobbit, that I think made it a lot easier to understand and to simplify. So when you're trying to tell the difference between your soul and your ego, I think it helps a lot to think back on a thing that we heard a lot as kids, is the devil and the angel on your shoulders. I think that's pretty much, in my eyes at least, a picture-perfect example of your soul versus your ego. If you're in a situation and you have kind of two different voices circling around you, and in your head, aka you have a devil and an angel on your shoulder, the angel, is your soul speaking to you, and the devil is your ego speaking to you. So, in case it's not very clear which one to listen to the angel on your shoulder more. Listen to the more peaceful and righteous and pure thoughts and feelings and emotions that you have in your mind and in your body. Don't listen to those more negative ones. And on that train of thought, it also kind of led me to soul versus ego, angel versus devil on your shoulder. And it also kind of led me to heaven versus hell. And again, I don't mean to make this a religious topic, but the point that I kind of want to make with it is, at least the way that I see it now, is that the soul versus the ego, the angel versus the devil on your shoulder, heaven versus hell, in a way it's all kind of in your mind, if that kind of makes sense. I'm not really too sure how to expand on it. It's something that I've slowly been thinking about over the past few days, and I don't really have much besides what I just gave you guys. But at least your perception of things and your life in the world that you live in, it's all in your head, and you have control of everything that's in your head. So therefore, you have control of everything in your world and in your life. You can choose to live in heaven. You don't have to be dead, to go to either or. Like you can very much live in heaven, while you're alive, and you can also very much live in hell while you're alive too. And it's all just in your head. It's all just a matter of listening to your soul or your ego, listening to the angel or the devil on your shoulder, and really just perceiving, the world that you live in as that way. You can put two different people in exactly the same world, and one can perceive it as heaven and the other can perceive it as hell. And it's really because of the thoughts which swirl around in their head, and which ones they choose to listen to and to amplify and to allow to shape their reality. I hope that makes sense to you. It's something that, you know, I really haven't kind of thought about and realized since very recently in my life, but it's something that's starting to make more and more sense to me. So I'd kind of like, because, you know, it's been very impactful for me in a positive way. So I'd really kind of like to start to plant that little seed of thought in your mind too. Because once again, to sound like a broken record, if it's helped me a lot in my life, and I'm just a guy, just like all you as well, all you guys, then I'm sure it can help you a lot too. So yeah, and then also this kind of brings me to a point where I'm really just talking about ego and pride now, is that I know I'm kind of falling back on my words already, but, you know, as with all things in life, it's all a dichotomy, it's all a balance. But when looking at ego and pride, and even though, again, I said it is, you know, the devil on your shoulder and the hell of this world, which certainly doesn't sound good, but I think it is worthy to note that listening to your ego and your pride, when the time is right, you know, in fair moderation, it can also benefit your life for the better. And to kind of explain that a little more, I think another way to look at pride before I get into what I want to is that or what I mean by ego is it's kind of like the mother nature instinct inside of you. It's kind of like the primal, or like the animal, the purely animal instinct inside of you, you know. But so that was a little side note of how I identify ego, at least. But, you know, I think it is good to have a little bit of pride and to listen to your pride and your ego when the time is right. Of course, it's a very slippery slope, and you can easily have too much ego or too much pride very quickly. But I do think that it is good to at least have a little every now and then. And the reason is because I feel that pride and ego, although they may not be the most righteous thing, they can push you and motivate you a lot to go out and do some really cool stuff in your life, and to be successful in whatever it is you're doing, and really to push yourself and hold yourself to a higher standard. You can kind of look at it in the way of competition and being competitive. You know, of course, everyone wants to win, and no one wants to lose. And, you know, that's kind of your ego talking to you. But if you can kind of listen to that ego a little more, instead of completely silencing it like I kind of just told you to do, and listening to your soul instead, if you kind of listen to that ego every now and then with competitive stuff and stuff relating to competition, it can help you a lot to be successful in whatever it is you're doing. You know, whether it's, say, you're playing a sport and you're trying to win, or at least your goal is to win, your ego and your pride can certainly push you to try harder and to find more of a way to win. Or you're in a race against other people, and, you know, same thing, you always want to be first, or if you just can't be first, you want to be as close to first as you possibly can, and your ego can kind of help you get there if you decide to listen to it. Or, you know, if you just have this big goal in your life, and you're not exactly feeling say motivated or energetic in some way about it, kind of listening to that pride and ego of yours and kind of that more negative voice inside your head can also kind of motivate you to go out and take a suck it up pill, like I've mentioned earlier, and do what you want to do, even though it's not easy or fun to do, because if you have, like, say if you take no pride in your work, like you're not really gonna have much to show for yourself. And if you take too much pride in your work, if the smallest thing happens, and it hurts like your feelings or your ego in a way, like it's all like everything's gonna unravel and it's gonna be like a whole shit show. But if you have just enough pride in your work, you will create kind of the best possible product for yourself. So again, it's all a balance. And while yes, of course, you should always prioritize listening to your soul over your ego, just know that, when the time is right and in fair moderation, listening to your ego and listening to your pride can also be a good thing sometimes. So with that, I'm home now. I'm going to leave you guys with that. As always, just remember that there's a lot more to it than you think. Remember to ask me questions, and remember that I'm always rooting for you guys. We'll talk tomorrow, and then there's a good chance that might be the last video of the week. But again, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, and you'll have to keep watching these videos to find out. So with that, we'll talk soon.